Good morning and welcome to Law Talk. My name is Mitch Panter. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Panter Sampedro. So more than 20 years ago, Law Talk was developed. And what happened was Brett and I decided that we wanted to help the community. And with the help of the Bar Association, what we were able to do is interview various lawyers and people in the legal community. The point was to educate you, to be able to tell you different things about different fields of law. And so what we did was we spoke with many different lawyers, many different politicians, people in the community to try to tell you a little bit about what's going on. Panter Sampedro is a law firm, and we deal with personal injury, medical malpractice, products liability, premises liability. And what we wanted to do many years ago was develop a network, a group of people that were able to help all of our clients with all of our needs. Because we advertised, we had lots of different clients that call for different types of cases: taxation, bankruptcy, immigration, criminal, civil. We never wanted to say, I don't do that, or I don't know anybody that does. So what we did was we formed the Panter Sampedro network. We formed that by sending out a newsletter to 8,000 lawyers in the Miami-Dade community. And in response to that, we met with a lot of different people. And what we did was we spoke with these lawyers and made sure that they were skilled, qualified, and competent people in their given field, such as Magda Abdo-Gomez, who you're going to speak with in a few minutes. And what we wanted to do was to be able to say to people, okay, we do personal injury, but if you have a problem with taxation, with immigration, with criminal law, here's somebody that we can recommend for you that will be able to help you. And so Panter and Sampedro Network was born. Our podcast today, and for the next several weeks coming up, will feature a variety of different lawyers doing different things. And I'm thrilled today to introduce Magda Abdo-Gomez. Magda, introduce yourself.
Yes, good morning. So my name is Magda Abdo-Gomez. Everybody knows me as Maggie.
What do you do?
So I am mostly a tax attorney. I have a master's of law in tax. I worked for the IRS for 4 years as an attorney, and handling all kinds of tax litigation, advice to revenue agents regarding collections, audits, things like that. And while I was there, 2 of the 4 years, I was also sworn in as a special assistant U.S. attorney representing the IRS in bankruptcy court. And so those are my 2 main fields now: tax litigation and consumer bankruptcy matters.
Tell us a little bit about your background. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? How'd you get to where you are today?
Yes, so I grew up here in Miami since I was 8 years old. I've been here. I graduated from Miami Coral Park. I'm a Ram. From there, I went to University of Miami. We won't talk about that mistake. I know that you're a big Cane. I'm a big Gator. So I wanted to be an interpreter, and I was an interpreter after I graduated from college for a year. For certain reasons, I just decided then maybe to become a lawyer, and I'm happy that I did. I love what I do. I love helping people. They come to you, their problems are to them insurmountable, and it's really a great feeling to help them start fresh, get the IRS off their back, and give them that sense of relief and comfort. And so that's what I do, and that's what I've been doing for over 35 years.
So in our world, in the plaintiff personal injury world, you've got the defense lawyers and you've got the personal injury lawyers. And I worked my first 5 years doing insurance defense, which gave me a good opportunity and availability to understand what the other side's thinking. I think I heard you correctly that you worked for the other side.
Exactly. I did. For approximately 4 years, I represented the IRS. So you're right. I kind of know how they're going to evaluate a case. How will they think about the case? Because even after 30 years, they still haven't really changed much. And so as they trust you. Now, of course, all the people that I work with are almost all are retiring. But because it's what I do predominantly, you get to know some of the new people. You work with them over and over again. And then they like it because they already know that they can trust what you're saying, which helps the client in the long run, because if I represent something on behalf of my client, then the client has credibility in front of the IRS.
Exactly.
And so they work with you, and it's just a good thing.
That sort of takes us into our next area, relationships. And at some point in time, you came and became a member of the Panter Sampedro network. How'd you get involved with us?
So I don't remember exactly what year it was, but it might have been around 2005, 2006, 2004, around there. I got a little postcard in the mail saying that there was this network starting up and was I interested? And I thought, well, this can't be real, but let's just try it. And, because it was no cost, no obligation. And I thought, let's try. And so I sent it back in, and within a certain amount of time, I don't remember when, I met with David Sampedro for lunch, and the rest is history. I've been able to participate in so many of your events, your baseball games that you take us to, dinners, get-togethers. It's all been a positive experience.
It's all about building relationships.
Exactly.
And has the building relationships with not only our network, but the legal community helped you? I think you said it helps you in representing your clients and getting their point across. How does that come about in the day-to-day real world, though, the relationship building?
Well, sometimes my clients, not very often, but sometimes my own clients will have problems that I don't handle, such as personal injury. And then at least I know that I'm sending them to someone who is an extension of me. I want to build relationships with attorneys who have my same values. And I mean, integrity, being honest with the client, wanting to help their client, that I know that if I send someone from your network or to your firm specifically, that my client is going to be treated the way I would have treated them. And to me, that's very important. And you get that through these relationships.
And that's why we're thrilled to have you as part of our network and our whole network in general. That's what we do. So tell us a little bit about a day-to-day job. What do you do? How do you get your clients? Where do you speak to them about? What is it you do to help people?
All right. So most of the time, either a client is referred to me, or the truth of the matter is, over the last 5 years, I've noticed a lot of them are just coming from the internet. So I don't know what I'm doing, but whatever I'm doing, it appears to be going well. So a client will call. Most of the time, it's like, I got a letter from the IRS. They're saying I owe them $100,000. And so then I have to try to figure out what kind of a letter are they getting. Some of the letters are actually collection letters where the amount's already owed. Some of the times they don't understand that what the IRS is doing is that they're proposing an assessment, meaning it's an audit. And the clients don't really understand the difference between the two. So if it's an audit, then basically the IRS hasn't said that you really owe us. They're saying, hey, we think you owe us $100,000. And so the way I approach that is, well, let's fight the adjustments they're trying to make. So that's one way. That was handled a little bit differently.
Well, let me stop you there. I got a quick question, because I get it myself personally, my family, my friends, and a lot of older people. Emails, texts, phone calls. Hi, this is the IRS. What's that all about?
That is all a scam. That is all a scam. Everyone should know that the IRS will never text you or call you or email you. Okay. Never. Just never, never, never. Everything will come the old-fashioned way, through a letter from the United States Post Office.
How do you know if it's a real letter or a scam?
So if it's a real letter, and I know that, and I've seen some scams, every one of their letters has a number attached to it. So you can just go to the irs.gov and put that letter number, and it'll tell you what the letter is supposed to be about. Nowadays, they're also have upgraded, and they're actually having a QR code on every one of their letters. So the newer letters have QR codes, and you could just scan that QR code and see. The letter will also show your social security number, which a scammer hopefully might not have. And then the letter should kind of make sense, and also have contact information, which then you could call and see if that number is legitimately the IRS. Or basically, if you don't trust the letter at all, then call up the 1-800-829-1040. That's the main number.
Repeat that again.
829-1040, 1-800-829-1040.
What is that?
That's the IRS number. That's their oldest number that I'm aware of. They have many, many other 800 numbers, but calling that number, you're getting to the IRS. So if you're afraid of the letter, contact the main 800 number. I mean, you may have to wait a couple of hours to get through to them, but you will know if the letter is legit or not.
So I get the phone call. They say, this is the IRS. What do I do?
well, you should never have answered the phone. But if you did, just say, well, thanks for calling, and just hang up.
Okay.
I know some people that play around because they know it is a scam. And so then they just waste their time. And I don't have that time to waste. But if you have that time to waste, or one of your clients does and just wants to yank the chain of the scammer, they could do that.
The text, the email, delete.
Do not respond to any of that. Even if I'm dealing with the IRS, if I'm dealing with an auditor, officer, or even their attorneys, they will not email.
Okay.
They will not email. They have started this new program, which was shocking. But so within the last 10 days, I was dealing with an appeals officer, and he's like, well, we are allowed now through this secure portal to email. And I was like, wow, this is wonderful. So basically, they have to send me an invitation with a specific number.
Okay.
Then I log into the portal. Before I can access anything, I have to give that portal my information and the client's information and this special invitation number.
Is this something that happens with lawyers only, or regular people?
I guess I don't know if they'll do it with regular people.
Okay.
But I suppose that they can do it with regular people if you are the taxpayer.
Okay.
So now you have to be a representative or the taxpayer, I'm assuming. So once they vet you, then they give you access, okay. Right? So they make sure that you truly are who you say you are, because I have my credentials registered with them, and that you are authorized to represent that taxpayer whose information you provided.
Let's just be clear on this. Somebody calls up and says, hi, this is Mike from the IRS. What's your social security number?
No.
Never.
Never. Because the IRS knows your social security number.
Okay. All right. Who are your clients?
Anybody that has a problem with the IRS. I have
businesses,
individuals. I've also been doing lately more and more Department of Revenue cases. Believe it or not, the Department of Revenue is much harder to work with.
What is that?
IRS.
What's the Department of Revenue?
The Florida Department is the Florida taxation, so sales tax. Mainly sales tax is the audits that I've been getting from them, because we don't have individual income tax in the state of Florida. We do have corporate income tax, but I haven't seen too many of those. I mostly get sales tax audits.
Give us an example. What is the average case? Somebody calls up from, let's take it two different steps. One is a person calls up and the other is a business calls up. So John Smith calls you up and says, I have a problem with the IRS. What do I do? How do you help me?
Well, I have to look at the letter. And
so it starts with the letter. That's the first time. It starts with
the letter. Well, no. Well, sometimes someone will call me and say, I haven't filed tax returns in 10 years. I want to come clean with the IRS. I have a gentleman right now. He got a big, some sort of settlement in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't know how much he got, but he's like, his attorney reached out to me. His client's going to get this money. He hasn't filed tax returns in like 10 years. And he doesn't even know where to begin. So in that case, I had to go into the IRS website, with his credentials, to get like all the W-2s that he had received over those years, all the 1099s. Those are income.
Recreate everything.
Right. And so I was able to get all of those for the client and send them to him. Now he'll go to an accountant and get those returns prepared. And then once those are prepared and filed with the IRS and the tax is assessed, then we go to, okay, now they're going to start sending me bills. What are we going to do? How are we going to work that out? So it could be different things. It could be that, or it could be they've already filed a return, they're getting audited, or they filed a return and couldn't pay, or there was an audit and there was additional taxes assessed and they can't pay. So then it just depends on what their issues are. If it's, I can't pay, I already owe, then it's the collection tools that we have, which are really very few. If it's we're being audited, then it's basically, let's try to prove that you're entitled to the expenses they say that you're not entitled to, that you didn't have the income that they say that you did, because there I can go all the way into the tax court. And one thing that that the audience should know is that these letters that the IRS sends, a lot of clients see an envelope from the IRS and they're afraid. they don't want to deal with it. They put it aside. And what they don't realize is that there are certain appeal rights, and those letters provide you those appeal rights. And once those are expired, you can't get them back. So you can't ignore them. You have to read it carefully. And the appeal periods are different. Some of them are 30 days. Some of them are 60 days.
From when you get the letter?
Yes.
Okay.
Some of them are 90 days. Once those days expire, you've lost all of those appeal rights. Don't stick your head in the
sand.
Exactly.
Get on it immediately.
Exactly, because there's a lot more things that we can do to prevent problems than to ignore it and then have those appeal periods expired.
It's not going away.
It's not going away.
The IRS is not going away.
The IRS is not going away.
You mentioned a word, and I want to delve into it a little bit. Audit. What does an audit mean?
An audit is when you file the return and you've claimed, let's say, certain expenses, or you've claimed a certain amount of income. On the income side, understand that when you get paid through a W-2, which is your wage statement, or a 1099, which is an independent contractor statement, those get sent to the IRS. So automatically, their computer matching system will make sure that all of the information that they have received appears on the return. So dividends, interest, wages, employment, independent contractor, all of that is matched with your return. If it doesn't appear there, that return is going to immediately get kicked out, and you're going to get a letter saying, we have been informed that you received this income. Your return does not report this income. You owe us X amount of money. So that's one audit. These are automated.
Okay, so you get that. What do you do?
So the letter says that you can either agree if they're correct. Oh, you're right, I forgot to include that. You sign the letter, you agree, they'll assess it, meaning it's a finding that you owe that extra amount, and then they'll start to bill you. If you say, if you say I didn't get that, and I've had situations like that where amounts have been duplicated. I've had situation. I had a young lady that we just finished the case. She had been working with one employer, and the employer had been using a payroll system. And after like 2 months, they changed payroll systems. So the new payroll system incorporated
and it doubled up
the amounts that she had earned, but the old payroll system issued the W-2 to the IRS. So now and it wasn't 5,000, it was in the hundreds of thousands. Okay. So now she's looking like she's earning 300,000 when she really only earned 200,000.
So
right?
they come to you. That's the first thing they should do.
Well, in that case, unfortunately, she did not come to me. She went to an accountant. And it became a tax court matter. They were sending the response, but instead of filing with the tax court, they kept sending it to the IRS attorney.
So let me ask you a real important issue there. Do I go to my accountant or do I go to the lawyer?
Well, is an accountant a lawyer? No. Accountants love to practice tax law, and they've done a lot of damage. They've done a lot of damage. I know because I've represented those clients. They just don't
get the specialist.
Well, I mean, if you had a heart problem, would you go to the general practitioner or would you go to your cardiologist? I think I'd go to my cardiologist. They don't know all the tools, and they just know a few things, and they do things and that end up hurting the client.
All right, let me switch. So we see the TV commercials, the ads, the FaceTime, all these different things, and they talk about, oh, we can wrap you up and get you pennies on the dollars. False? True?
Okay, so the IRS has tagged those agencies as a scam. If you look at every year, the IRS publishes their Dirty Dozen list. Okay, those entities are one of them, and perhaps a regular person would not have picked up on it, but as soon as the IRS, but I'm a tax attorney, so when I listen to those commercials, it just makes
cringe.
It just makes me cringe. And when the IRS published and made them one of the Dirty Dozen, had you listened carefully, you would have seen that they changed some of them changed their commercials slightly because of that. I've had customers come to me from them, and they say I've been ripped off. Yes. Why? It is not that that avenue does not exist. I can tell you that last year during the pandemic, one of my cases was decided. My client owed over $1 million, well over $1 million, and I settled the case for like $6,000.
How?
Is it possible? It's possible. The tool exists.
Okay.
However, you cannot state it's just like you. Maybe my injuries resulted in $1 million recovery. But does that mean everybody that walks into your door through your door is going to get $1 million?
Excellent point.
They're not. They're not, right? And so did Congress permit the IRS to settle cases for less than is owed? Yes, the statute is there. However, the results depend on the particular facts of each individual taxpayer.
And they do one by one.
One by one.
Okay.
And in order to take advantage of that, there's a lot of paperwork that needs to be filed. And what the IRS's complaint about these outfits is that they're just working on volume. They don't care if you don't really qualify. They're just going to submit. They just submit the paperwork knowing that you're not really going to qualify, but they charge you the money up front. And then they come to you and say, oh, guess what? The IRS didn't accept it. Sorry. I do it completely the opposite way around. You need to give me the information first. I then analyze it and determine, will you succeed?
So we can go back to the concept we've been advertising lately, bigger is not better.
Exactly.
We're a small law firm and we handle our clients one-on-one. I presume you similarly are one-on-one and you handle it and you deal with it that way.
Yes, right on my website, it says, your work will always be done by an attorney. Okay. It's like I consider a white glove service. Do you want to deal with me here locally?
Right.
Or do you want to deal with an outfit that you might not be getting an attorney, you may not be getting the same person twice, you might not be getting the person who's advertising on TV. That's one of your,
of course,
one of someone that's advertising against those big boys ever claiming to big boys. Who do you want to help you?
Well, so I hire you. Let me ask the hard question. Do I pay you? You get percentage? How does your salary or fee structure work?
It's by the hour.
Okay.
I do charge by the hour. I think based on my level of experience, I charge a lot less than I should. And I know that it sounds like a lot, but because I do this every day for over 30 years, I work very quickly. I'm very efficient, right? I'm not there to have the client have sticker shock when he sees my bill. And I'm happy to say that no client has ever complained about my bill or refused to pay my bill.
Let me ask a few specific questions. So I'm looking here. The Florida Constitution says that creditors cannot take my home. Can the IRS take my home ever?
Yes.
How?
So understand that the Florida Constitution in Florida, and no state law applies to the IRS. The IRS is a federal entity, and it is governed by the United States Code, in their case in particular, the Internal Revenue Code. So the Internal Revenue Code, and by the way, it has been changed when I started out 30 years ago, they could take your home, no questions asked. And I had several clients whose homes were taken. And then of course we fight and we get back their home. But so right now, the way the law stands, if the amount of tax that you owe is $5,000 or less, they cannot take your home. If you owe more than $5,000, they can take your home only if a judge or magistrate approves the taking.
They can't just walk in and put a lock on your door and say
they can't take. Not anymore.
Okay.
Not anymore. Now they would have to get the Department of Justice to bring an action in federal court to approve the taking of the home. And if the judge says yes, then the home would be taken.
Wow.
Okay. I would say at the beginning of my career and when I worked with the IRS, yes, we took homes. And yes, I've had clients whose homes were taken. Since the law was changed, and I forget how long ago it's been, but probably like at least 20 years, I've only seen one client who was no longer my client where they were proposing to take the home. And what, you know what I have to say to that? He deserved it.
Okay.
Okay. So now I imagine the Department of Justice has to really go up before a judge and justify why they're taking this person's home. You know,
How about salary, wages? How can they affect that?
so the federal law, so this is a little confusing. There is a federal law that says that the maximum amount that they can take from their wages is 25%. That's the general rule. Florida has better protection for individuals than the federal rule if you're a head of a household. So a head of a household, generally they can't take any wages if you earn less than 750 a week. If you earn more than 750 a week, they still can't take it unless the debtor signed something that said that they could. And if you're not a head of a household, they can take 25%. None of that applies to the IRS. So the Internal Revenue Code says they can take your wages, and it's basically based on the standard deduction plus the exemption divided by 52. So right now, starting in 2018, we have a higher standard deduction and no personal exemptions. So for example, a quick calculation, if you're a single taxpayer, the standard deduction is, I believe, $12,400, and the personal exemption is $4,150 with probably a few $100s for inflation adjustments. So I don't know the exact figure. So basically $16,000 for a single taxpayer, divide 16,500, divide that by 52 weeks. That's how much they'll let you keep from your salary, which is really, really nothing.
No. Hard.
Okay. So obviously.
Can you fight that?
Well, if you had responded to the letters, you would never have gone to that point.
Okay.
Okay. That's why I say it's so important that you not ignore the letters. The letters escalate. The letters get worse and worse, right? Okay. So they'll start to tell you, hey, you owe us. Hey, there's a reminder that you owe us.
Penalties, interest.
Penalties and interest compound daily. Okay. Interest compounds daily, and it fluctuates quarterly. Right now, it's still at 3%. It had, right before the pandemic, was up to 5%. So every quarter, it gets readjusted up or down depending on what's going on.
So COVID, last year and a half, 2 years, what's going on with COVID as it relates to taxes, IRS?
They're still collecting their taxes.
But they're not giving money back that quicker. Because I remember last year it took 8, 9, 10 months for them to finalize, and I had a return coming and it didn't get it. Okay. This year a lot quicker, but last year it took forever.
So, I know everybody loves to hate the IRS. I feel for them because I understand where they're coming from and what has been done to that agency. So think back before the pandemic, they were shut down. Before the pandemic, there was a government shutdown. I know because I've lived through these. So we had I thought, like, can lightning possibly strike twice? I didn't think it could, but it did. So I got hit in 2019. They were shut down for months. Right? I don't know if you remember.
So I do. And what does that mean? That you couldn't talk to them? You can't address any issues?
They were furloughed.
Wow.
So they were shut down. They literally, and it's funny because when I worked for the IRS, twice the government did not reach budget. So they, right there in the middle of the day, go home. We're done. We're closed. So that meant we went home. We were furloughed. We were out of a job, right? And so when they were furloughed, they were out of a job that was not functioning. So they were already behind. Then COVID comes and they shut down again. So they get behind. And on top of everything else, so here we are. Oh my God. So we're running out of time. But basically, they're just way behind. They are making a dent.
But are you in trouble because I can't resolve my issues. I can't talk to people.
No, basically, unfortunately, interest and penalties keep on compounding. They're behind, but they're working. They're working. They have been working since July.
But I think the
They're all working
important
from
thing
home.
is to make sure you stay in touch with your lawyer so your lawyer can document everything and make sure that even though they're not there, you're on top of it, you're
Right,
complying, you're doing
right.
what you're supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
All right. I want to thank you very much for being with us today. If you'd be so kind, how do I get in touch with you?
So I can be reached at 305-559-4878 or by email. My name is Maggie, Maggie, at magtaxatty.com.
And we didn't get to it today, but we will another time. You do bankruptcy as well?
I do.
All right. Questions with bankruptcy, questions with taxes. Magda Abdo-Gomez, give her a call. I want to thank you for being with us today here. I want to thank you for listening to Law Talk, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.